today's episode of Future Says, we have Gaurica Chacko, the Vice President of Life Sciences at Wipro. Gaurica, thanks so much for joining the show.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit more about yourself and your role at Wipro.
Sure. So again, my name is Gaurica Chacko. Great pronunciation, by the way.
Thank you very much.
So I lead our global life sciences consulting practice at Wipro, and I also sit on our Edison Alliance with the World Economic Forum board as a deputy champion. And really, one of the key things there, and it kind of just mixes with the work that I do around health, is reducing the digital divide. And one of the key focus areas for them is health, in addition to finance and education.
Okay.
So it's really converging both my work, which is around technology, but in the field of health, with making a bigger presence through an ecosystem play through organizations that my firm supports, like the World Economic Forum.
Okay. So talk to us. On this podcast, we speak to so many people in so many different industries. And life sciences has so many unique challenges, so many unique opportunities. Can you give us just an introduction to what are the big trends happening within that space at the moment?
Sure. So I think one of the key things that's happened, and again, I feel like this is the used and overused word, generative AI. But I think one of the key things that's happened is within the life sciences industry, we've been using artificial intelligence for, I would say, over a decade. However, it's been in pockets. And with the focus and the use of generative AI, common citizens can now have ability to leverage this to their advantage. And two things have happened in the life sciences industry, and I'll kind of connect the dots there. One, from stakeholder perspective, life sciences was always very focused on the healthcare practitioner, and through the healthcare practitioner to the patient, right? So the focus has always been patient outcomes, but the channel to get to them has been through their physicians. However, with COVID, patients became more front and center in their care because nobody could go anywhere, so everything was digital. And what that did for life sciences industries post-COVID is all of a sudden the stakeholder community has expanded, and now there's direct-to-patient interactions. Now, when I spoke about AI and the common citizen, that is where life sciences companies can then get more precise in how they are interacting with their patient community through AI, and not only focus on the areas that they were traditionally using AI for, which is in research.
Yeah, so interesting. I mean, if you look at the automotive space, I do a lot of work in that industry, and it's all around direct to customer there as well now. Everybody is used to going through a dealer, but now a lot of car companies are selling direct over the internet. You're just buying a car off the internet. It's so exciting. Tell us more about, COVID, and how has that last 3 years been for you and your clients, and how are they starting to come out of COVID?
Sure. So digital transformation took on a life of its own, right? So as I said earlier, because of the whole direct to patient, direct to physician, use of telemedicine, you couldn't do any of that without technology, right? So instead of companies using technology in silos, now they were looking at it enterprise-wide. And I think one of the biggest examples of what happened during COVID was the birth and the growth of Moderna, right? A small company making such a huge impact and getting a vaccine out in such quick. Obviously, a lot of that has to do with the research and the vaccine itself. But you cannot undermine the role of technology, because none of that would have happened without technology, scaling it, whether it's through manufacturing and getting out the product faster, or reaching your audience in a faster way, including educating them, right? Keeping aside things like the regulations gave some grants, right, with regards to, not going through the regular rigor and due diligence, which typically the FDA goes through. But keeping that aside, because it was a pandemic, once enterprises got comfortable using technology at such an enterprise-wide level, there was no going back. And the fact that now our consumers, who are patients as well, are demanding a more precise, personalized experience as opposed to a very generic, uh, one size fits all experience that they were used to before.
Yeah, and that personalization is again another topic or trend that is hitting so many different industries at the same time. Everybody wants things done for them. We're used to Netflix choosing what we need to watch next.
Yes.
What challenges does that pose for the companies themselves in seeking that personalization?
Yeah, so I think there are two challenges. One is around understanding why you are gaining the attention of your end customer. Because, and sometimes I think we get carried away with the technology. And the reason I say that is there's so much noise in the system, right? I'm going to say all of us at some point in time have been a patient or know somebody who is a patient. And and we're all consumers. There's so much overload of information coming at us. And now if you create one more nice bells and whistles technology to reach that same consumer, and then you're talking about your health, which is not something that's not something that you wake up in the morning and get on Instagram and you want to look at, oh, like this is only if you need it will you go to it, right? So you got to have that clarity of why you're reaching out and be able to then articulate the right channels to communicate. And I'm going to bring it back to AI for a second because AI, because of the power of data, allows us to make it personalized, right? Allows us to know what might work for you will not work for me. And yes, you can take a playbook out of the media and entertainment sector, like what you mentioned about Netflix. Like the experience is very curated, right? What shows I want to watch are very different from what you want to watch, and they'll show me what I want to watch. Why can't that happen in health, right? And I think that's where we need to go. And to do that, you need to look at the patient as a human in a more holistic fashion.
Mm. So if I'm a patient in 5 years' time, what is different in 5 years' time to me as a patient today?
So I don't know if you guys have been following the news about, one of the newscasters from CNN just 2 days ago came on TV and she basically, she's a very famous newscaster, Sarah, and she disclosed that she has breast cancer, stage 3. And one of the things that she mentioned was only when she went through this journey or is going through this journey, she realized that 41% of Black women die today of breast cancer more than white women. This is happening in the United States today, right? Forget COVID. When they get less, I think 4% less disease or breast cancer than the other cohort. And so there's so much disparity right now still in the system. And the reason is it's multifaceted. It has a lot to do with not just what's happening in the hospital system, but what's happening outside in the social fabric, which is where we talk about social determinants of health, right? So answering your question in a really long-winded fashion, what I'm hoping that happens in 5 years is that data becomes that great equalizer and we can better predict and hopefully, if not prevent, intervene earlier so we catch the disease irrespective of who it is, what color, what background, what zip code you belong to. If we can, our healthcare system is so advanced in certain areas, but you just need to intervene sooner so you can cure, and hopefully we can find cures faster too. So again, to answer your question and summarize it, I was in 5 years, we wouldn't have the issue that Sarah just highlighted again 2 days ago with regards to the disparities, and then we can do more earlier intervention across
That's brilliant, and that's all around equitable access, right?
Correct.
And
It's,
is that, does that tie into the role you play within the World Economic Forum as
that's
well?
correct.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit more of that?
Sure. So, and the Edison Alliance, the birth was out of what they saw on a global level at during COVID, right? And so, um, what the disparities that were brought to bear in both the developed and the developing world were just so in your face that you couldn't ignore it. So, although people knew it in pockets, but not everybody focused from a policy perspective on it. And so, given where the World Economic Forum sits, which is at a global level, and they've got partners across the board, which is public and private sector, they undertook this mission of impacting over 1 billion lives by a certain point, and the three areas that they focused on was health, education, and finance. And we are partnering with them, with along with other partners on the health mission. So we've actually got a program running right now in India on maternal and child health in one of the largest slums in Asia. What we're focused on is digitizing for urban slum dwellers who basically are coming from villages to the urban areas, and you've got a family of 6 living in one room, right? And they're there for day jobs. And so the mother in the family might get health care, but it's still paper based. And say because it's day jobs, they move from one town to another, all that data is lost.
Yeah.
And it's so simple, right? But we're partnering with the likes of AstraZeneca and also the Maternity Foundation because, again, we can't do it alone, as well as some NGOs like Doctors for You to bring along a digitized end-to-end experience for those moms. So irrespective of where they go, the healthcare system in India can, no mom left behind, ensure that they are getting adequate care.
That's so wonderful. It's great to see such good applications for technology.
Look, life is short and you need to be purpose driven. Otherwise, at least I'm very purpose driven. I think technology can really play a great role, but technology alone can't do it. And I think it's, again, you know, as an individual and then obviously as a company, you need to have that clarity of vision.
Yeah. Talking about technology, I know you've mentioned before about it's not all about AI. Now we have generative AI. We've had AI for years, but you're also interfacing with other technologies like the metaverse and 6G. Can you talk about some other technology you work with?
Sure. So again, when you talk about personalizing experiences, right? One of the first things one looks at, and you want to create the diversity. One of the first areas that you want to educate your consumer base on is, okay, what are the clinical trials that are available to me? Because if I'm somebody who is of, say, Asian descent, and I am an immigrant, I could have language barriers. I don't know where to go and find that information, right? My children might still be young, so they're not really at that point, which is first generation, that they can help me navigate, right? And I or a spouse get some unfortunate disease. How do I know where to go besides the universe of my primary care physician? So one of the things that we've championed is, bringing education to the consumer in their environment. So I go to a grocery store, and in those grocery stores, most grocery stores now, large grocery stores like the Walmart or CVS, have pharmacies. CVS is probably not the best example because it's not considered a grocery store, or a Target. Let's use Target, right? Close to the pharmacy, you've got a pod. And when you go to pick up your prescription for a particular disease, your pharmacist can say, hey, look, because you're picking up something on cardiovascular disease, we've got a pod here that can provide you more education about this disease, as well as provide you information about certain trial sites that are in your zip code. So you go into the pod and you put on this HoloLens, and it actually, based on your zip code, takes you on a journey of showcasing to you the nearest, educational hospital. Most of the research happens at research hospitals. That's why I called it. But the closest hospital, and we'll walk you through the hobby, take you through the third floor, whichever floor the research center is at, and also do biometrics. So where they'll ask you questions, and because you are close to a pharmacy where the pod is, you can take your blood pressure, you can have an oximeter there, right? And then it will match you to a site coordinator and tell you, look, only if you want, a site coordinator from this clinical site will contact you. Otherwise, here is educational material in the language of your choice, which is where Gen AI comes in, right? You can just use that. Now that you can leverage for putting on a lens in your eye, right? Before the experience typically is what? When you're putting on a lens, you have to first, even if you've got an educational video, you still have to poke your eye when you're learning, right? What if without poking your eye through a metaverse experience, you're still using the function, but it's not going in your eye, but you are kind of getting as close as you can through that interactive experience, right? So that is really what we're trying to do. And look, you need 6G for that. If you want to make it completely seamless, that and eventually bring it to the homes of people, and connect it. That's where Metaverse, 6G, and obviously, a hybrid experience of using biometrics comes in.
Yeah. So there are so many technologies that are impacting the one industry at the same time. There is this amazing future of personalized medicines delivered to your door every day. How do we get there? What challenges still exist to get there from a technology adoption forefront? What help do you need to achieve that?
So I think a couple of things. I think trust is still an issue, and rightly so. History proves that there've been some missteps. I think that technology is moving too fast. Regulations aren't moving fast enough. We have to build trust as we go. So how do you not try to change the world and take use cases that are going to make big impact, and allow us to bridge that gap on the trust that we need to with our communities? I think is really where we need to focus our attentions. And frankly speaking, and I'm a big believer of this, I think we need to come together more and more in terms of the diverse parties coming together, right? So again, like I was mentioning to you earlier, I'll be at Davos next week, and one of the big areas of focus for them is trust, right? So how do you ensure the governments, the governing bodies, with the commercial sector like ours, with the hospital systems, with nonprofits, are coming together, and how do you ensure that data can be shared and cross-pollinate, which is, I would say, the biggest challenge we have right now.
So is all of these trends converging onto a smart city?
Look, to me, we're talking about connective tissue, right, of a smart city. You can't have a smart city without the city being healthy. I just personally don't think you can, on the periphery, do things and make it smarter than it was before. But to truly make a city a smart city, it needs to be a healthy city.
I love it. So about you then more. You know, you've been a Wipro. You're so successful at Wipro. There's so many people watching this that are saying, "How can we emulate that? How can we achieve the success she's had?" Can you talk a bit more about what's driven you as a leader through the years?
Um, I've always had, thank you very much, by the way, very kind of you. I've always had an innate curiosity. Um, and, um, and I'm drawn to people who are, uh, you know, of the mindset to constantly learn. Um, you know, um, and I think if you are constantly learning and are humble about the fact that you can't know it all, nobody knows it all, and you need others for you to be successful, and you will give before you get. Um, I think it just comes back, and I think it's just my mantra in life is it's not just about work, right? It's like that integration. It's like, as you sow, so shall you reap. You give good, good comes back tenfolds.
Yeah. Have you had role models, inspirational people in your life that you've worked with, that you've lived with, that have given you pieces of advice through the years that have really stuck with you?
So I would say, the individuals that have positively impacted the most, starting from my childhood, are my mother and father. I was born and raised in India. And back in the 80s, there was still a little bit of a differentiation between a girl and a boy. There was superiority. But my parents had always been very great about, you know, allowing me to have a point of view and a seat at the table from a very young age. And I think that built that confidence very early in me. And I would say the other thing that they did was, if you fail, don't worry, we're there. So I wasn't very afraid of failure from a young age. And then I would say that in my career, individuals that have been great champions and people that I looked up to. One is my spouse, and I think he's my greatest champion. Even when I've had some missteps, he's always there to support me and encourage me. And then on the work front, there was this woman partner at KPMG, and oh my God, she was a go-getter and a badass. And I learned a really good lesson from her. Actually, two lessons. One was rise by lifting others, and the second was, and she was the only woman senior partner on that entire row in New York City, which is where I used to work, of all male partners. And the thing that she taught me was, look, as women, don't try to take that office that the other woman has. Try to build offices next to her and expand the footprint. And that has stuck with me. And I'm a big proponent of, helping other women grow and rise.
Is enough being done? Are things improving on the diversity front in the life sciences industry? Is it fairly diverse? Or
Uh, when we have enough women CEOs, where we don't start the congratulatory note by saying, look, another women CEO, but truly go based on the fact that she is the right person for the job, I think enough would have been done. I don't think I think we've barely scratched the surface. You will see a lot of women in leadership positions in traditional roles of HR and legal, but running commercial functions in life sciences or even in R&D, you'll see them. You don't see too many. I mean, so the only CEO that I can think of right now in life sciences who's a woman, who's fairly senior in a top 10 pharma company is GSK CEO, right? That needs to change.
yeah, and how does that change? Is that on the company? Is it on governments? Is it on education?
It's on all of us.
Okay.
There's enough research that shows diversity of thought makes a company successful. And the more diverse individuals you bring around the table, more will happen. I live in California. We're the first in publishing all kinds of regulations, and majority of them I feel are good. I mean, so we've got this regulation on board diversity, and you can't have tokenism in that, right? You can't just say, oh, I have a woman on the board and check the box, or actually it's not tokenism. Now I have two, and we'll leave it at that. The rest are all male. No, that's not good enough, right?
Yeah.
So I think, look, I think change is happening. I just believe it needs to happen faster. I don't want my granddaughter sitting here talking about the same thing.
Yep.
It would be great if it happens in my lifetime.
Good. Well, let me interview your granddaughter in many, many years, and we'll see. And we hope not.
All right.
Gaurica, thank you so much.
Thank you.